morning and good afternoon. Welcome to DCTV, where I am your host, Drew Collins, bringing you all sports-related news in the greater Cincinnati area. If you're new around here, but enjoy the content, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment all future video ideas in the comment section below. If you already saw the title today, then you know I'm going to be doing a draft recap on the Cincinnati Bengals and how I feel about it. Let's get into things. Now, obviously starting with the first pick in the NFL Draft in Joe Burrow. It's a perfect fit for both sides. I give it an A+. You have a team who needs a culture change, who needs a player to change it, and they get that in Joe Burrow. And you have someone who's from Ohio and now gets to represent it. I'm not going to touch too much on this first round pick or first pick in the NFL Draft because I've already done 2 other videos on Joe Burrow, and I'm going to link them in the description. There's no reason for me to sit here and talk about it all day when I've done that in 2 videos already, so go check them out. I will say, speaking on behalf of the city of Cincinnati, everyone is ecstatic. Everyone's ready for the NFL season. Just like many others, including myself, I've already bought myself a Joe Burrow jersey.
Denied.
Waiting for it to come in. And I'm going to say this. The last person to come out of Akron, Ohio, not Athens, but Akron, went to a league and played for their hometown team. Special things happen. Now, in the second round, on pick 33, the Bengals selected T. Higgins, wide receiver, out of Clemson. I called this in my prediction video, also linked down below, and I said they would take offensive tackle Josh Jones, but if they decide not to, they would go with T. Higgins, but with a plan in mind. And what I mean by that is, obviously, besides linebacker, the biggest need for the Bengals is an offensive tackle or just offensive line in general. But if there was other talent on the board, like T. Higgins, they would draft him and still have a plan in mind. Either they would draft a lineman farther down in the draft, or would try to trade for someone like Trent Williams, who's now off the trade market, but would try to, acquire somebody with the trade bait of Andy Dalton, who I wish would be traded for something that could help Joe Burrow, like an offensive lineman. This also didn't shock me because it's just another fantastic weapon for Burrow to have down the long road. Let's be honest, we don't know how much longer A.J. Green has with the Bengals or in his career in total. And this is literally an A.J. Green replacement. 6'4", lengthy, can go up and get the ball. I mean, literally his favorite player and player who he shaped himself after was A.J. Green, and now he's playing alongside him. And this also didn't surprise me because back when Andy Dalton got drafted, they also drafted A.J. Green in the same draft, and they were a dynamic duo for 5 to 8 years in the NFL. So I just thought it made sense, and it's just going to help Burrow down the road. That is why I rated T. Higgins an A-. Now with the 65th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals selected Logan Wilson out of Wyoming. A linebacker who, like I said, was the other position they needed very badly, and they got a good one in Logan Wilson. I say that because he's 6'2", 240 pounds, good size. He has good coverage ability, good ball skills, and has a lot of upside to him. Honestly, in my opinion, this kid's going to start right out the gates in day one. If not, he's going to get plenty of playing time. And I believe the biggest reason for the Bengals, not being the greatest in linebacking last year and tackles is because they don't have that one stand-up player who they can rely on. And they haven't had that since probably 2015, I'd probably say. But I believe Logan Wilson, if not right away, in the future can be that. He is a homing missile tackler who shoestring tackles, lowers the shoulders, anything. He reminds me of Eric Kendricks from the Vikings. He's a fantastic tackler. He definitely puts everything into it on the field. And it's just something the Bengals needed, some grit, someone to go after the ball and just get after it. I also, with highlights, I looked up some stats. He had 407 collegiate tackles and had 17 games in double-digit tackles in his career as well. And I definitely see him doing a lot of that with the Bengals because, like most of these players, they're either going to be day one starters or going to be able to see a lot of field time in the first season, which is why I give props to why the Bengals, decided to draft who they did this year. And with everything said, this is why I rated this pick an A- to B+ for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now in the 4th round at pick 107, the Cincinnati Bengals would go on to select back-to-back linebackers and Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State. He's 6'1", 224 pounds, pretty good coverage, but scouts really do believe he's going to be able to be a great blitzer in the NFL. He has speed, acceleration, and he can slip through defenders. That's what they said primarily. And I really hope the Bengals could do that, because back in the day, they would blitz like it's nothing. But in the past few years, they just haven't been able to, with the lack of linebackers and coverage skills, because if they blitz, it's a first down almost every time. But with this kid and a few other linebackers that they have added and defensive linemen they've added, I believe that they definitely can get back to being very aggressive on the defensive side. Now, some NFL scouts do say he lacks in size and some coverage ability and some certain coverages, that he has some breakdowns. But if the kid, just like Joe Burrow, who studied the offensive playbook for the Cincinnati Bengals 2 weeks prior to even being drafted, if he can hit the book, study coverages, I don't see it being a problem. Just like all the other players on this list, I do see him fighting for a starting spot, at least getting playing time this year. So if he can work on the coverage ability, I don't see him getting pulled off the field at all. With everything being said, at first I wasn't the biggest fan going back to linebacker, especially with offensive linemen still on the board at this time, or being able to at least trade up for some. I didn't like it at first, but after reviewing it, I do get about a B+, A-. It was a pretty good selection. In the 5th round, at pick 147, the Cincinnati Bengals would select Khalid Kareem out of Notre Dame, a 6'4", 268-pound defensive end who just has that modern-day defensive end look. The Leonard Floyds, the Everson Griffins, yeah, those guys. This is what this guy kind of resembles. His arms were over 34 inches, and his hands were 11 inches long. I can't, you got to look at this guy. He just has that resemblance, and I think the Bengals, licked their chops and definitely, wanted to add to the defensive line that they've had great for the past decade. I mean, they've always had great defensive linemen. They still do, Pro Bowl filled players, and now they're just adding on to it. Now, this might be the one kid who might not be able to start on this list, besides maybe another, but he's definitely going to be on the field and fight for snaps. And to add on top of that, he has great talent to learn from Carlos Dunlap and others. Now, a lot of NFL scouts did say this kid also has great football IQ and great awareness, but he does have to work on lateral quickness and a few other little things. But I believe this kid's going to learn a lot from Carlos Dunlap and a lot of the other veterans on this defensive line, so I don't see it being a huge problem. Now, at the time, I was still yada yada. There's still offensive linemen on the board. They could have traded up for some. But reviewing it and looking over it, I gave it a B+ because it's a great talent and probably the best talent on the board at the time. In the 6th round, at pick 180, the Cincinnati Bengals would finally decide to address the offensive line and get Hakeem Adeniji out of Kansas University. Now, personally, at the time, I was definitely thinking, what the heck are they doing? They need to address it. There was plenty of players on the board before this round. They had plenty of chances to trade up with Andy Dalton. And there were just many chances they had, but they waited all the way to the 6th round. But looking back at it, my mind has changed. Now, Adeniji has the least chance of starting out of all these guys. Don't get me wrong, there still is a chance with the offensive line the Bengals has. And I say that because the biggest thing about him is that he's versatile. He started offensive tackle for Kansas, but in practice he was under the center. He played guard. He switched everywhere, so obviously it's going to help the Bengals if Jonah Williams or anyone else were to get injured again this year. He could be able to step in and learn from them and hopefully take that starting spot eventually. With Hakeem being 6'4", 302 pounds, he has pretty decent size. He's versatile and has great technique. But some NFL scouts said that he lacks athleticism and gets exposed when he's fatigued. So hopefully he'll be able to work on that with the other young offensive linemen on the team. And he'll during preseason and practice, if he works hard, works his way up, he could definitely see a role in there. Because with the way the Bengals lineman is, I don't see all 5 offensive linemen starting the whole year. I definitely see offensive linemen getting switched up with Zach Taylor, unless some trades were to happen, Andy Dalton. That would be really exciting. And, even for a backup or a practice squad, the kid can still learn for a while before getting that starting spot. Now, I did rate this pick, the lowest being a B to B+, because, like I said, I would have liked to see it to be addressed earlier, but it's better late than never. With the final pick of the NFL Draft for the Cincinnati Bengals, in round 7 and at pick 215, the Bengals would select linebacker Marcus Bailey out of Purdue. Now, there were 7 picks for the Bengals this draft, and 3 of them were linebackers, but let's get into this one. Now, a lot of people question the Bengals selecting 3 linebackers out of the 7 picks, but besides offensive line, linebackers was definitely the worst position for the Bengals and the biggest need for the team. Marcus was from Columbus, Ohio, so not far from Cincinnati. He ended up going to Purdue, which he would have 2 major knee injuries, which is, I think, why his draft stock, went down. The talent is there, but the injuries were pretty major. I believe one of them was an ACL tear, and the other one was pretty major. I'm not too sure of what it was, but that definitely affected his draft stock. Marcus stands at 6 foot even, 235 pounds, and brings that leave it on the field mentality that a lot of players have. He brings that grit and aggressiveness that he really lacks in size, but it doesn't matter because he brings everything he has to every game. The biggest thing I could find on him that the draft scouts were the most naggy about, it was definitely his injuries and his lack of acceleration with some plays. As long as he can stay healthy, he is just like everybody else and has a great chance of starting, if not starting, getting a lot of playing time still on the field. And that's why, rounding it out, I think the Bengals did very well in this draft, is because they drafted players that are going to play day one, if not, are going to have a chance to. I mean, all these players are going to see the field sometime this year, and I think that's fantastic for all these players. Now, obviously, if Marcus can stay healthy, learn, and just strive to be a better player, this pick will turn out. I obviously think it was a great pick because if it wasn't for his injuries, he definitely wouldn't have been this far low in the draft in the 7th round. That's why I rated this pick a B+. It's been a fantastic draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. They drafted all-around position player needs, they drafted explosive talent, and they drafted players who are going to start day one and are going to make a huge presence right away. Probably the best draft I've ever witnessed, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very excited. I know everyone in the Cincinnati area is. With everything being said, I ended up rating this draft at A-, trying not to be biased, but looking at all the websites and all the other people's ratings, the Bengals are consistently in the top 3 to top 5 NFL draft ranking. Wrapping it up, it's been a fantastic draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. They got day one players, they got amazing talent who are all going to have bright futures. Hopefully they can just put everything together and just make something out of it. That's been the biggest problem for the Bengals, is that they get all the pieces of the puzzle but can never put the puzzle together. And I believe with a lot of talent they acquired over the past couple of days that they'll be able to. If you guys enjoyed today's draft recap, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below for future video ideas. I'm probably going to be doing one about Andy Dalton and his future. Let me know if you guys want to see that. With everything being said, make sure you, stay true, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I think about you all day, and at night I watch the stars. I know love is not a game, but I can't control my heart. Up so many times, I know you thinking